Mic check 1 2. It's the Y2K collector, and I have good news. I tested all of the 360 games yesterday, and they all are working flawlessly. So that's definitely good news for sure. But I wanted to take a minute and just really touch on the Xbox 360 hype train. I know that ever since they initially announced that the store was going to be closing, people have been going nuts trying to buy up and add as many of these Xbox 360 games as they can get their hands on, assuming that the prices are going to jump. One of the things that I will say to anyone who watches my channel is try not to let FOMO get you, right? There are a lot of games, even in this box, that I was very tempted to go on eBay and purchase once I heard about the Xbox 360 store closing. But I told myself to wait because I knew that I would eventually run into a lot of these games organically at either a retro game store or at a GameStop. Now, I knew that it would be more likely that I ran into these at GameStop because GameStop still has a lot of Xbox and PS3 inventory available. They still have a lot of that stuff. And you got to think, if they're still cranking out, Super Nintendo, PS1, PS2 stuff, they've probably got treasure troves full of Gen 7, games, or Gen 6 or Gen 7 games. So that's why I strongly recommend you wait. There were a few games in particular that I was very tempted to purchase when I first heard about the store closing down. The first one being Spider-Man Friend or Foe, and then the second one being Wolverine. Wolverine, when I started looking to buy it, around the time that things were heating up, Wolverine was going for between 80 and $100, and there was just no way I was going to bring myself to pay that much for this game. Now, I do believe that Wolverine, X-Men Origins Wolverine, has gone down some, and I think now it's hovering in like the 60 to 65 range, which is still very pricey for this game, considering we're not far enough removed from this generation yet, and the circumstances haven't changed enough yet for me to feel like $65 is a good price to pay for the game. I feel like I could still find this out in the wild at a reasonable price, part one, and part two, GameStop hasn't caught up with the price change on this game yet. Same thing with Spider-Man Friend or Foe. Spider-Man Friend or Foe, this used to be a very cheap game. This was like a $15 game not that long ago. And then now all of a sudden, because of the store closing, now Spider-Man Friend or Foe has shot up to like $60. So I didn't want to spend that for these games because I knew I would run into them again. And lo and behold, I wound up running into them again. And I wound up paying roughly around $50 for the both of these games. Whereas now market value on both of these games is anywhere between $125 to $140. So, and again, condition matters a lot to me, right? So a lot of these eBay listings, the games aren't even in that great of a condition. They're all beat up and jacked up. But if you look, I mean, the case is in very good condition. The cover art is also in immaculate condition. Not a single scratch on this thing, at least not from what my eyes can tell. And I'm shining it against the light so that you can see it there. I mean, the condition of these games is impeccable. And that's because these were sitting in a warehouse somewhere, in one of GameStop's warehouses, probably in, quote unquote, GameStop new condition. But I tested this out. This is actually a really fun game. I like the fact that with Wolverine, one, you get different move sets. I kind of like games where the first level is the tutorial as opposed to making you go through a tutorial. They just build the tutorial into the first level, and I like that about this one. I also like the fact that it's kind of like an RPG, so you can actually level up, and as you level up, your life bar expands. You can learn new moves. It is linear. It's a linear game, but it's still a very fun one. So this is definitely one I would recommend. And I understand why it's pricey. It's a fun game. You know what I mean? Like, when games get expensive, they don't just always get expensive just because. A lot of times it's because they're really fun games. So these were two that I nearly jumped on the hype train to buy. But I said, you know what? I'm going to wait and I'm not going to jump out the window. I'm going to hang tight and see if I can pick these up again. And so, you know, there are a number of 360 games that are going to continue to shoot up. Here's one that I mentioned the other day, Velvet Assassin, 12 bucks, you know, it's like 45 bucks now. So don't buy into the hype. Don't let the hype train get you. Hang tight. There's a lot of 360 games to go around. Trust me. If you live in a city where your GameStop is limited, or you don't have a lot of GameStop options, try to build a GameStop visit into one of your road trips. If you have to drive outside your city, if you're going away, see if there's a GameStop near you that you can swing by, and you never know what you'll run into. That's just a good way to kind of take advantage. But do not let the FOMO get you. The store is going to be closing within the next week or so, and I guarantee you when the Xbox 360 store closes, a lot of this stuff is going to shoot up all over again. The wave is going to happen, and everyone's going to be trying to pick up 360 games. So just hang tight, keep your eyes open, see what you can find, go from there. So I definitely just wanted to kind of give that little PSA this morning with regards to the 360. Now, I did just want to touch on something that really interesting that happened to me yesterday when I went to one of my local GameStops. Someone had come into the GameStop with like 4 big boxes of games, and some of the games that they brought in wasn't scanning into the system. So the store employees at the GameStop decided to just leave those games in a bucket, and anyone who wanted to take them was just able to take them. So of course I took them. Nothing crazy here. There's no like grails or anything, but just some decent stuff that I could use for either trade bait or case swaps, because I do case swaps. So we'll start off with this stack of Wii games. So in the box, they did have these Wii games. They had Big Beach Sports, Winter Sports Ultimate Challenge, Deca Sports 2, and then they had Big Beach Sports 2. So these are like some basic, really cheapy Wii games. But again, these are going to come in very handy when it comes time for doing case swaps. So that's how I'll use these. I'll just go through some of my current Wii games and see which cases are in like rough shape. And then I'll just do some nice case swaps with these. So that's how I plan on using those. Then they had some interesting stuff in that box too. So they had some PS1 stuff. They had SpongeBob SquarePants Super Sponge on the PlayStation 1, complete in box. Not bad shape on this game either. But then they also had a copy of Pac-Man World loose disc. So I'm probably going to keep this loose disc copy of Pac-Man World because I am a fan of that game. I had it before and I sold it. Actually, I had the greatest hits version. So I'll probably wind up keeping this in the collection for now. It may become trade bait later, but I'll probably hang on to that. Then they had some PS2 stuff. They had a copy of Pac-Man World 2, complete in box, greatest hits edition. So this was an interesting pickup. I've had this game as well. And Pac-Man World 2 isn't a bad game. It's actually pretty fun. There's a reason why it's greatest hits. It's actually a fun game. So this one might stay in the PS2 collection. I think I'm going to keep this one around as well. Then they had a copy of Tak, The Power of Juju on the PS2. This too was complete in box. So I'm probably going to keep this one in the collection for now. Just build that trade bait shovelware pile that I can use in the future. So we got that. And then they also had this copy of Dr. Mudo, which I don't think has Dr. Mudo in it. Yeah, this had another Tak game in there. This one is Tak, The Great Juju Challenge. What's up with all the Juju? Anyway, so they had all these. So all these games were free. All this stuff was just sitting in that box, chilling there for free. And so I figured I could make use of a lot of this stuff. Some of these games I might play. Some of these games I might let my daughter play because I don't have a lot of like kid-friendly games. As you can see, like there's a lot of like rated M stuff here, you know, blood, violence and stuff like that. So here, these are like the more kid-friendly games that I think the kiddos will enjoy. So I'll find some use for these. And again, these are going to make great case swaps for some of the Wii stuff. And then while I was in there, that GameStop, they did have a few cheap pickups that I thought were of some great value. So I went ahead and took advantage. The first being this copy of Trine 4. Trine is actually a really cool Metroidvania style game. It's like an action platformer game. And I thought that this was a good value because for $7.50, this is like a $22 game. And I actually like the Trine series. I sold off a lot of my PS4 stuff, and I think Trine was included. But this is cool because it does come with the map. Came with this little map deal. So for $7.50, went ahead and snagged that up on the PS4. Wasn't mad at that. Iron Man, this is kind of like a bad game. This game got a lot of bad reviews. But because I'm building like my Marvel collection, I added it to the collection. It was $9.50, so I am gonna give this one a shot though to see how bad it actually is. But yeah, added Iron Man to the collection. This one is also complete in box. They had some more PS2 stuff. They had Kingdom Hearts 2 on the PlayStation 2, which is cool. I'm a fan of like this cool little colorful action adventure game on the PS2, so added that. And then they had some GameCube action for me. Battalion Wars on the GameCube. Wasn't mad at this either. This did not have the manual, which was a bummer, but it did have the game there, so I went ahead and added that little GameCube. So some cheap GameCube and PlayStation pickups that they had there for me. Took advantage of that at the GameStop there. I'm building my trade box. Trust me, a lot of trades are going to be happening, and I'm going to be doing a lot of selling coming up here in the next few months. For those of you who followed my channel in the past, you've seen me bring huge boxes of games in for sale and for trade. So we'll see how that all pans out this fall. But that does it for me. Again, don't buy into the Xbox 360 FOMO. Get out there, hit up your GameStops, hit up your local game stores. A lot of stores have not yet caught up to the price increases on these games. So you can still get a lot of them underpriced and take advantage of those deals. But that does it for me. It's the Y2K Collector. I'll be back this afternoon with some heat for you. Take it easy.